guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about futures. So if you guys have been following me for a while, I have been mentioning futures, NASDAQ futures and ES futures in most of my videos. Anytime that I take a trade, I do pay attention to what futures are doing. So it's really important if you're day trading to pay attention to what futures is doing. So if you're not paying attention on a day-to-day basis to what futures is showing you, NASDAQ and ES, you are going to struggle to identify which potential direction the market could potentially take that day. In this video, I'm going to go through a couple different tips and tricks that I personally utilize on a day-to-day basis to kind of identify overall market direction and market trend. If the market is trending or if the market is not trending, obviously if the market's not trending, you don't want to take any trades because then you get a choppy day and you could get caught in false breakouts and so on and so forth. So I'll give you guys some tips and tricks on how futures can kind of help you identify that prior to taking a. That being said, as always, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, let's go through a background of what futures are prior to how you can utilize them in your trading. So ES is the futures contract that tracks the S&P 500 index, which is a basket of 500, the top 500 companies in the stock market by market cap. The highest weighted stocks currently in the S&P 500 are going to be Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, and Google. The NASDAQ future is a futures contract that tracks the NASDAQ 100 index, which is a basket of 100, the top 100 companies in the stock market right now: Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, Google, Facebook, and NVIDIA. I think Facebook and NVIDIA may have dropped down, but this one is not fully updated on the percentages, so just try to keep me honest there. What you will also notice is that most of the tech sector, because the NASDAQ is a basket of only 100 stocks in comparison to S&P 500, what you will see is that most of the tech sector, especially the ones that are weighted the highest in the NASDAQ, are going to react more to NASDAQ futures. So when I'm watching my tech sector, for example, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, NVIDIA, Facebook, AMD, I'm going to be focusing more on the NASDAQ futures and what the NASDAQ is doing. Obviously paying attention to ES as well, but I'm going to be, it's going to follow or react more quickly to what the NASDAQ is doing in regards to ES. Now, when I'm trading SPX is the index that tracks the S&P 500, I'm going to be watching ES. So ES is for if you're trading SPX and SPY, and the NASDAQ, you're going to get more of a reaction to how the NASDAQ moves from the tech sector versus how ES moves. So just because it's weighted more, less stocks, it's going to move more. It's going to react more. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at their charts. This is the ES, so the ticker is /ES, and you'll see E-mini S&P 500 index futures. /NQ is going to be your NASDAQ futures. If you drop down here, E-mini NASDAQ 100 index futures. Now, you want to chart futures the same way that you chart any stock or any ticker symbol that you're trading. So you can see here my ES futures is charted and my NASDAQ futures is charted. Usually with the NASDAQ, I chart every 50 to 100 point levels. They're going to be your psych levels, and then there are some levels in between that as well that I chart. I always round up the levels on the NASDAQ unless it's like a low of the day here, like 1168. I would still round out to like 1170. Same thing with ES. Usually ES moves a little bit in smaller increments, so your 5 to 10 point increments on ES are going to be your psych levels. They're going to be the levels that you'll see buyers or sellers start to step in and potentially hold the stock up or down. The first thing that I'm going to go over with you guys, our first little tip that I like to use with futures is VWAP. So the VWAP is an intraday indicator that I like to utilize, especially with futures. I have seen that it works really well when you're trying to identify overall market sentiment. So one thing is that if futures is below its VWAP, I'm not really looking to take calls. And if futures is above its VWAP, I'm not looking to take puts. Okay, so if you see futures above the VWAP level, you want to focus more on the call side, on the upside, bullish. If you see futures trending below VWAP, you want to focus on the downside. Usually you'll see bearish sentiment. So for example, let's say you're taking Tesla, you want to look at Tesla above 800, let's say. Okay. Tesla is getting close to that 800 level, or 690, let's say. This 690, Tesla is getting close to the 690 level, and what you see here on futures is that NASDAQ starts to approach that VWAP level. So let's say Tesla is starting to break 690. However, NASDAQ is slowly approaching VWAP. You do not want to take that Tesla play, because what could happen is that NASDAQ could reject that VWAP and make a move down. You want to wait until you see NASDAQ or ES, both at the same time, break above their VWAP levels for you to be able to take calls on whatever stock that you're watching. So if I was watching Tesla above 690, I would not touch a 690 level, even if it broke, until I saw NASDAQ break above its VWAP, NASDAQ and ES in adjacent with each other. Okay? Same thing on the downside. So let's say you want to take Tesla below 666. Okay, you see NASDAQ approaching VWAP level. Tesla starts to break 66. You don't want to take it unless NASDAQ breaks below that VWAP level. Okay, so to sum up the VWAP, if futures is trending above its VWAP, bullish sentiment, below its VWAP, bearish sentiment. If you see choppiness, for example, if you start to see if futures kind of just trending and touching VWAP multiple times, you'll usually notice that it's a choppy day. Okay, so always pay attention to what futures is doing in accordance with its VWAP level. Cool. Next thing is levels. So like I said, you want to chart your futures just like you chart any stock. Okay, let's say, for example, NASDAQ and ES are approaching their low of day. Okay, and Tesla is approaching, Tesla or any stock that you're watching, let's say, NVIDIA. So let's say on that day, NVIDIA was reacting more to the downside with futures. So you can see here, low of day, low of day. If you start to see your stock approach its low of day and futures is approaching its low of day, you do not want to take that trade until futures breaks low of day. You wait for futures to make the move first prior to you taking the move on your stock. Okay, usually this kind of makes you wait for a confirmation candle, let's say. So you wait for a confirmation candle here, and you wait for futures to break low of day or high of day prior to taking the low of day or high of day break on whatever stock that you're watching. Same thing, even if it's not a low of day or high of day break, let's say it's just a level breakout and you're watching the stock above or below a level. Let's say you were watching NVIDIA above 148, NASDAQ is approaching high of day. You wait for the NASDAQ to break above high of day prior to taking NVIDIA above 148. What can happen is the NASDAQ approaches high of day and rejects. If you get into NVIDIA prior to it breaking high of day, you will get caught in a false breakout. This will reject as well. Okay, so you always want to wait until your futures breaks out of low of day, high of day, or any significant level of support or resistance, a psych level like 11,600, and is able to hold on a 5-minute time frame prior to you taking a trade on any stock that you're watching. Okay, that's tip number 2. Tip number 3. Another way that you can identify whether the market has a trending day or a non-trending day, say a choppy day, is how futures react to one another. Okay, so let's say the NASDAQ or ES is making a strong move up, but the NASDAQ is just kind of chopping around, kind of making a move down, not really making a move up. It's going to be a choppy day. Okay, futures should always be on the same page. If ES is making a move up, NASDAQ should still be making a move up. Even if the NASDAQ isn't as strong to the upside as ES is, it should still be above its VWAP, making a move up, breaking out of higher highs, the levels that are resistance levels that you have on the upside. If, for example, you see ES making a move up, and like I said, you don't see NASDAQ doing much, the NASDAQ could potentially hold back the overall market. Okay, even though ES is making a move up, the only time that I would take a trade is with SPY or SPX if ES is making the move and NASDAQ is not. Okay, so let me repeat that. If ES is making a move and the NASDAQ is not, the only tickers that I would trade would be SPX and SPY. Otherwise, if ES and the NASDAQ futures are not on the same page, you do not want to take a trade because it could become very choppy. All right, so you want to make sure both your futures are on the same page. They're both, even if one is stronger than the other, they're both moving in the same direction. That's going to solidify that direction for you to be able to take a trade and not get caught in a false breakout. Another thing that I do want to mention as well is you want to use multi-time frame analysis on anything that you trade, and especially futures. So even if you're day trading, you want to make sure that you're looking at higher time frames to see where ES are, where futures are in comparison to obviously their overall trend. So you can see that ES and NASDAQ are now getting close to yearly. They were at yearly lows, and now we're watching them on the weekly time frame to kind of see an overall picture of what futures is doing. You can see that overall ES is trending down and overall NASDAQ is trending down as well. Just like any ticker, you can trade patterns on futures. So if you see a bull flag, bear flag, if you see futures squeezing, if you see a double bottom, double top, it works the same way. The only thing that's different is that how you implement what futures is doing into your trading. So let's say you see a double bottom on ES. It could potentially signify that we could see some upside the next day, or if it breaks out of that double bottom, you could see some upside. Let's say you see an H pattern, which is a bearish pattern on NASDAQ. It could signify that if NASDAQ breaks out of that H pattern, we could see some bearish momentum in the market that day or that week or whatever, that month. Okay, so depending on the time frame that you are looking at, if you're looking at the yearly, weekly time frames, you're going to see it on an elongated period. So it could take days or weeks for that pattern or for that chart time frame or for that breakout to happen. If you're looking at an intraday time frame, 5 to 15, 30 minute, it could happen throughout the day. Okay, so you always want to implement whatever you're seeing, whatever pattern, whatever trend that you're seeing, you implement it on that time frame. Okay, so just like any other ticker that you would trade. Another thing that I want to mention is volume. Okay, so just like any stock that you trade, we always say, especially if you're scalping, day trading, there always has to be volume there. If there's not volume, the move is not going to be significant enough for you to be able to catch it. Same thing with futures. If you see that futures volume is low, overall market volume tends to be low as well. If futures does not have the volume to make the move, to make the trend, the market is not going to have the volume to make the move or make the trend. The market is not going to be trending. If you see low volume, you'll usually see futures chopping around, making insignificant moves up or down. Okay, so you always want to make sure that there's volume behind the move, volume behind futures for you to be able to capitalize on whatever stock. So just to recap some of the points that I went through, you always want to make sure that you're watching futures on the 5-minute time frame or higher. You're using multi-time frame analysis, and you're implementing whatever you see on the time frame that you're watching it on. So if you see a double bottom on the weekly time frame, you play it on the weekly time frame. If you see a double bottom on the intraday time frame, 5-15 minute, you day trade that. 2, you want to pay attention to how futures are trending in comparison to its VWAP. Trending above is going to be bullish. Trending below is going to be bearish. If it's trending back and forth above and below its VWAP, not having a strong trend on either side, you have a choppy day ahead of you. Okay, so you don't want to trade. You want to pay attention to make sure ES and NASDAQ are on the same page. If ES is trending up, NASDAQ should also be trending up. If ES is trending down, NASDAQ should also be trending down. If you see that one day they are not moving in the same direction, one or the other can hold your play back. So if ES is making the move, NASDAQ is not making the move, it could potentially hold back whatever ticker symbol that you're looking to trade. Okay, so you always want to make sure that both your futures are trending in the same direction. Next, you always want to make sure that there's volume with whatever that you're trading. There has to be trading volume. If there's no volume, the move is not going to be significant enough for you to be able to catch, and you could potentially get caught in false breakouts. On top of that, if futures does not have volume, you get a choppy day. And lastly, make sure that futures is making the move prior to you taking the trade. Futures should be breaking out of low of day, high of day first prior to you taking a trade of a breakout of high of day, low of day, resistance level, support level of any stock that you trade. If futures does not break out of high of day and you enter that trade, you risk the potential of being caught in a false breakout and futures bouncing at low of day or high of day or any significant level, psych level that futures may be approaching. Okay, same thing with VWAP. If it starts to approach VWAP, that VWAP level can be used as a level of resistance and support with ES and NASDAQ futures, so it could potentially reject. You wait for the breakout first of futures, and then you take the breakout of whatever stock that you're trading. Alright guys, so that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and leave a comment down below or shoot me a DM on Instagram. All of my social media is linked below. If it's not linked below, it is not me, so make sure you are following the correct accounts, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!